This week, vandalism has become an unfortunate reality of the Christchurch school closures. A gas leak causes chaos in the city, and Canterbury University goes back to where it all began 100 years ago. Welcome to CTV News Week in Review. I'm Emma Cropper. A multi-million-dollar redevelopment of Christchurch's hospital has left visitors and patients without parking. But the Canterbury District Health Board has an alternative. Joelle Bautista explains.
Construction on Christchurch Hospital is expected to take 4 years. CDHB Chief Executive David Meats says in the first stage no car parks other than disability spaces will be available.
Over the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to be using a range of different parking arrangements, including park and ride, different drop-off solutions for both staff and patients to make sure that people can access services. It's going to be a complicated process, but the end result is going to be worth it.
The Park and Ride car park is on the corner of St Asaph and Antigua Streets, with a free shuttle bus running to the hospital every 15 minutes. David Meats says the new development will make the hospital one of the most modern in the Southern Hemisphere.
So the first stage has got about 380 odd hospital beds, new operating theatres, new emergency department, new intensive care units, and a whole range of support structures that go with that. And it's going to be a significant build.
Mr Meats says it's going to be a very challenging 4 years.
Essentially every single service in Christchurch Hospital will have shifted at least once, and 40% of most clinical services will have shifted probably 3 to 4 times. So it's going to be an ever-changing and moving environment.
The main entrance is now drop-off only. Traffic flows in front of the hospital have been converted into a 2-lane system. David Meats says emergency services will continue as normal.
It's going to be a different pathway. At the front of the Christchurch Hospital will be converted into two-way traffic.
Park and ride isn't the only option on the cards. Mr Meats says as needs change, so will alternative parking.
We've got a plan B, C and D, recognising that things are going to change on a month-by-month basis, and certainly over the next 2 to 3 years we will be having different solutions that will be fit for purpose that will need to come into play at that time.
Mr Meats wants Christchurch residents who have alternative transportation to use it to help ease potential congestion. Anything
to help take some of the pressure off. We have about 4,000 visitors, patients visiting every day Christchurch Hospital, so it's a busy and a lot of people coming and going.
The shuttle bus runs 7 days a week from 7 a.m. until 8:30 p.m. Joelle Bautista, CTV News.
For the second year running, a Canterbury builder has taken out the National Apprentice of the Year title.
Meet 23-year-old Tom Southern, Christchurch man and a third-year carpentry apprentice. Recently announced the National 2014 Apprentice of the Year. Tom says he's surprised to have won, but honoured to have the title.
There was some tough competition out there, and really honoured.
Over 130 competitors across New Zealand were in the running. Narrowed down to 9 finalists, the apprentices endured a 45-minute interview and a 5-hour practical test. The aim, to build a children's playhouse.
It was a matter of getting good quality stuff done in a short time frame, and so I think that's what was most pleasing to the judges.
Halfway through the building, Tom realised he wouldn't make the project deadline.
About halfway through our project, we knew that we weren't going to get them finished in time, so I concentrated on parts that I knew to show off my skills and so that they could see everything that I had.
The focus for Tom was to work on the details. This won him first place.
It was cladded in plywood with a little wee front door and a wee window on the front with weatherboards.
The judges named Tom Apprentice of the Year for his dedication to the job and hard-working nature. Currently working for Farm Build here in Canterbury, Tom is loving work as a tradesman.
I think building just found me through mutual friends, and got on really good with the industry and the people in it, and here I am.
For apprentices, especially here in Canterbury, Tom says the opportunities are everywhere.
There's so many areas where you can go once you're in the industry. There's a really good system where you can, once you qualify, you can go into so many different aspects of it.
As a born Cantabrian, being a part of the rebuild is particularly exciting. Tom says there's no shortage of work and the industry is booming.
To be a part of it and say that, you know, you helped along and watch everything progress, watch the city come back together, yeah, it's good.
A trades apprenticeship takes 3 to 4 years to complete. Tom is due to finish in February and he's already set long-term goals.
I'd like to go into project managing for a start once I'm qualified. And then, some big projects like that.
Mr Southern's message for aspiring apprentices:
take the opportunity. It's a good opportunity to get learn while you get paid.
Joelle Batista, CTV News.
A piece of tranquility is now alive in the Garden City, changing the site's rubble into a representation of the city's cultural diversity. Greening the Rubble has finished one of its biggest projects to date. This is its largest garden to date. Greening the Rubble's Places of Tranquility covers 1,200 square metres in the city centre, an initiative by the Canterbury District Health Board that seeks to include the city's ethnic communities and traditions, cultures and spiritual beliefs in the rebuild.
She noticed that a lot of the ethnic communities weren't being engaged with the rebuild and their conversation was kind of getting lost. So she came up with this idea of places of tranquility to reflect their ideas of tranquility and their spaces.
These carvings and communal spaces representing Māori and Pacifica cultures. Contrasting against the other half of the garden, its secluded and singular spaces reflect Greater Southeast Asia.
And they're meant to reflect the different cultures' ideas of tranquility and also native flora and fauna.
The project took 8 weeks to construct on the former site of the Canterbury Manufacturing Association. The Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority now owns the land. They're leasing it to Greening the Rubble for the next 2 years. Plans to bring the empty lot to life were created by Lincoln University students who won a design competition back in 2012.
And they had a design competition for each of the 6 gardens. There was, I think, 4 students per region, and they designed and then were voted on by the local communities about what their favourite design was.
Most of the plants and materials used here have been donated by the community. The garden's large tree, best known for donning its own high-vis outfit, has now been stripped of its bright orange coat.
When we started here, we were like, oh, we'll keep it, and then we noticed it was getting quite tattered. And then when we had a closer look at the tree was not really loving it that much, so we just talked to Peter and he came down and agreed to remove it.
Greening the Rubble is hoping to secure 2 more sites to complete the entire project. Emma Cropper, CTV News. Coming up, jolt dancing for a good cause and a gas leak caused chaos in the city. Welcome back. A gas leak caused thousands to evacuate in the Christchurch CBD and forced schools and businesses to close for the day. Marcus Gibbs was there.
Christchurch roads closed and hundreds evacuated. Morehouse Avenue and Barbados Street becoming a hive of activity as emergency services work to contain a gas leak. Dozens of construction workers forced to take an extended lunch break following the major evacuation. Aaron Walker was working at a CPIT construction site near the leak. He says a gas pipe was ruptured by a digger during roadworks on Morehouse Avenue.
I just saw the gas coming up through the hole in the ground, and then the firemen turned up. All seemed pretty casual about it. We're pointing, waving at each other, and then they just started to spray it with the water.
Such was the severity of the leak that an entire block was evacuated.
You know how dangerous propane is?
It looked like a lot of gas was coming out of the hole. Yeah.
I'm not really sure. We saw cop cars that way. There's been police everywhere, so I'm not really even sure where we're allowed and where we're not allowed.
Police officers were kept busy as a horde of vehicles tried to make it down Barbados Street. Students had to reluctantly leave class as CPIT closed its doors earlier than usual.
I was doing some work and out of nowhere they just tell us that we have to evacuate, get out of there, so we're on our way home now.
Roads were blocked with heavy traffic, forcing some students to find a new way home.
So we can't even catch the bus now. We have to walk to the bus station, so it's quite disappointing. We have to walk all the way over there.
The drama was over by the time the 5 o'clock rush hit. The cordons were taken down around 3:30 and the area was given the all clear. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The government's shake-up of Christchurch schools has left many sites empty and open to vandalism. Marcus Gibbs explains.
Branston Intermediate was one of more than a dozen Christchurch schools closed by the Education Minister last year. However, before the students had even left the school, vandals started trashing the place. Bullets had been fired into windows and others had been smashed in.
We've had attacks on windows with hammers, we've had graffiti on a nightly basis, we've even had someone in here with a BB gun shooting at windows.
At the time of the attacks, then Principal Jennifer O'Leary felt as though people had given up on the school.
The community respect something when it's part of them, but everyone knows we're closing and therefore there's no investment in the place anymore for the community.
A year later, and the Education Ministry says vandalism hasn't turned out to be much of a problem. But the longer these schools stay empty, the chance of a vandal attack increases.
We're always concerned, a vacant building's always got the potential for vandalism.
Earlier this year, it was reported that schools collectively worth more than $42 million were sitting empty around the country. The New Zealand Herald reported that one of the 52 schools in the process of being sold was shut down 13 years ago. Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt has previously described some Southland schools as rotting corpses, branding them magnets for vandalism. However, the Education Ministry hopes that with various community groups and government agencies using the closed Christchurch schools, vandals won't come knocking.
The community groups are fantastic. They take that real ownership care in the asset, in the building. So what we find with them is that they'll look after it even better and people respect that. So, having people around, having it look busy, used, is certainly a real advantage to us.
The Ministry is minimising potential threats by demolishing older buildings and relocating others to where they are needed most.
Where a building is no longer fit for purpose, no longer in a condition to support the teaching, we'll remove that building.
Some schools like Linwood Intermediate and Kendall School will be used over the next 7 years as a temporary base, while other schools in the area are repaired, helping to keep these old school buildings alive. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Jolt dancing challenges public perceptions of what people with disabilities can achieve through art. But just what is jolt dancing? Dancing to their own beat. This class isn't about your age or ability. Jolt dance gives locals with disabilities a chance to perform and interpret their own style of movement.
The main thing is that it's their opportunity to express themselves through dance. So the challenge for us is finding as many unique and innovative ways as we can allow them to express their own movement and to extend and be a creative person, basically.
With regular dance classes not always set up to support individuality.
I don't see that individuality and difference is anything less. It's that difference and diversity is what's beautiful.
Michael Kramer leads the lesson after being part of Jolt Dance for more than a decade as a teacher, choreographer and trainer.
It's very interesting to see the variety of movement these kids bring. It's just very exquisite, I should say.
Now Michael, who has autism, has become the face of Art Access Aotearoa's I'm an Artist campaign.
It's an absolute privilege to be part of it. I mean, I never thought I'd be standing here doing what I'm doing now.
The nationwide campaign hoping to change attitudes and behaviours towards people with disabilities.
It's just trying to challenge those public perceptions about what people with disabilities are capable of.
For the past 14 years, Michael's been proving art lives within those who have disabilities. His biggest moment, performing Let Inside Me Laugh, a show reflecting on his own experience with autism.
I was scared about all the negative feedback from the audience and what that would come across, but the audience was very, very polite.
The I'm an Artist campaign runs for 3 weeks until the beginning of November. Emma Cropper, CTV News. Still to come, a local pianist wins a national title and the university prepares to head back to the Arts Centre. Welcome back. A local teenager has proved age is nothing but a number, taking out the top award in New Zealand for piano forte. At 18 years old, Amy Gahi-Lee is one of New Zealand's best pianists. The Year 13 student took on artists 4 years older than her to be named the National Young Performer of the Year.
I went with no expectations whatsoever. I kind of expected that I would have heaps of time after prelims, kind of assuming I wouldn't get through to semi. So I took lots of homework with me because I needed to do lots of studies for coming up, the exams coming up. But no, I was busy.
But taking out New Zealand's top honour for piano forte wasn't even on the teens' radar.
Really, really shocked and very surprised. So it was all kind of a blur. I was just, one moment I was up there, next moment I was on the podium my arms full of flowers and cups and things.
But for her teachers, it was no surprise. Rangiruru's director of music believes Amy's talent is rare.
I've known Amy for 7 years and she's probably one of the most gifted students that I've ever had the privilege to work with, and I've worked with a few, quite a few, but there's something very innate and natural about the way in which she performs.
Amy qualified for the competition semi-finals, then was selected to perform in the final showcase along New Zealand's top ballet, tap and singing performers. But despite the high pressure, Amy kept her nerves at bay.
Always before I go on stage, I'm always really excited, really just want to just share why I love music and why I love playing piano.
This is her winning piece by Beethoven, written during his frustrations when he began losing his hearing. It was those emotions that were with her on stage.
For my finals on Sunday night, I suddenly felt something very different while I was playing, as if I suddenly almost understood what the composer was trying to get at me and wanting me to understand and kind of get that through to the audience.
The 18-year-old high achiever is now inspiring the next generation of pianists.
She works a lot with younger students and they really see her as a role model and look up to her hugely.
She's been named one of New Zealand's best pianists, but now her focus is back to school and passing her end-of-year exams. Emma Cropper, CTV News. New figures show that since the recession, New Zealand has done very little to improve the growing problem of child poverty. Here's the story. New Zealand's record on tackling child poverty has barely changed in the past 5 years. A report by UNICEF shows children living in poverty in the country only dropped from 18.8% in 2008 to just 18.4% in 2012. Do you think we've got a problem with poverty in the country?
We have, but we shouldn't have. In some places, yes.
Everywhere you go now, everybody's talking about poverty, and it's a real shame to see the children living in the conditions that we've been hearing about.
Well, I think we have. There always seems to be children going to school without any breakfast and things like that.
UNICEF's Children of the Recession report looks at the impact the global financial crisis had on child wellbeing in 41 OECD and EU countries. UNICEF figures show that youth unemployment has gone up and more New Zealanders admit they don't have enough money to buy food.
Well, I think it's up to the parents, isn't it? And they have children, they've got to look after them.
Australia, Poland and Chile top the list of countries making the most progress in child poverty, while New Zealand ranked much lower on 16.
Yes, we're kind of shocked just to hear what's going on out there.
Social Development Minister Anne Tolley told Radio New Zealand's Morning Report that New Zealand has yet to see the effects of a $500 million package aimed at children in the last budget. The government has no target figure to reduce child poverty, but believes reducing the number of people dependent on welfare should improve the situation.
I think we're getting worse. We're becoming a lot more aware.
They tax us, so they must use the money wisely. Hopefully.
A spokesperson for UNICEF says the report shows that governments which acted quickly at the beginning of the recession and put the right policies in place did the best. Emma Cropper, CTV News. Members of Canterbury University's art faculty are moving back to where it all began. Joelle Bautista explains.
The vision of having music made in this space, in the heart of Christchurch, with our musicians, our students and our staff working with our students, with music from the university becoming central to the musical activity in the city again, is very exciting.
The University of Canterbury began in the 1870s. It was housed on the Arts Centre site for 100 years. After suffering severe damage in the 2011 earthquakes, the Arts Centre began a $290 million 7-year restoration program. There are currently over 100 contractors on site daily and 25 stonemasons working to restore the historic buildings. Out of the city's 309 heritage buildings, only 165 remain after the Christchurch earthquakes.
It was the home of the university for about 100 years. Those magnificent old buildings housed exactly the sorts of departments that we house here now. What we're doing is we're moving a couple of departments in the university to the old chemistry building in the Arts Centre.
A tenancy agreement announced this week will see the music, classic and arts departments move into the Arts Centre Chemistry building. Arts Centre Chief Executive Andre Lovett anticipates the return of the university facility to the city will be an incredible boost for the surrounding cultural precinct. An important feature of the development will be the James Logie Memorial Art Collection. Made up of more than 350 Greek and Roman artefacts, some of the display dates back to 7th century BC.
The fact that we could bring to this endeavour a wonderful collection of ancient art for everybody to come in off the street and view is a great opportunity.
Mr. Lovett says welcoming back a new generation of students is a fitting way to celebrate both the past and future of education and the arts in the city. The chemistry building will be leased for the next 8 years. Located on Hereford Street, the building was completed in 1910.
It's a beautiful space. The light comes in the windows. There's an airiness to it and a strong sense that we're returning home.
The university is hoping to bring thousands of people into the central city site with music performances, public seminars and community events.
We'll have visiting specialists and scholars. There'll be short courses, there'll be seminars, presentations and talks, and it'll be an opportunity for all sorts of community projects that we really want to engage with and that will help the university work in with the community, which is a top priority for us.
A fundraising campaign has been set up. The university is asking the community to get involved.
We have a target of $1.5 million, and that's to adjust the interior of the space so that it can do the things that we want it to do, which is house those academic departments and have teaching spaces within it, but most importantly have an area for the Logie collection to be on display in what will be state-of-the-art display cases, a really effective recital room for the School of Music and other specialised spaces that you need for educational purposes.
The restoration work on the chemistry building is expected to be finished in April next year. The university will then spend the next 5 months refitting the interior. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
That's News Week in Review. I'm Emma Cropper. Have a great weekend.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.